All right, let's dive into something that I think we've all felt at some point. It's this really common but uniquely painful experience that can actually change how we see the world. We're talking about the psychology of being the second choice.
Yeah, just let that sink in for a second. It hits home, right? Because it points to a very specific kind of pain. It's not just getting a no, it's getting a yes, but. A yes, but only because the person I really wanted wasn't available. And that's what we're going to unpack today. Why that hurts so much. So, let's get right to it. Why does this feel so much worse than just being rejected outright?
Okay, think about it like this. An outright rejection, look, it stinks for sure, but it's clean. It's a closed door. You know exactly where you stand and you can start to move on. But being the second choice, well, that's totally different. It's a conditional yes. It's like the door is open, but you know you only got the invitation because someone else RSVP'd no. That feeling of acceptance is tainted. It leaves you hanging in this weird, unsettling gray area.
And that gray area, that ambiguity, it doesn't just go away. In fact, it can literally start to rewire how your brain works, putting you on this constant, nagging state of high alert. So let's just ask the question straight up. What does this feeling actually do to us? How does it change the way we move through our relationships and our lives? Well, there's actually a term for it in psychology, hyper-awareness. And this isn't just, being a little more observant. No, this is a state of hypervigilance. It's deeply connected to what psychologists call attachment anxiety. It's basically your brain going into full-on protection mode, constantly scanning the horizon for any tiny sign that the connection might be in danger. And this is what that actually looks like day to day. It means you're always looking for signs that history is about to repeat itself. You're the person who overanalyzes a text message. Why did they use a period there? Are they mad at me? A tiny shift in someone's tone of voice suddenly feels huge, like a massive red flag. Reading between the lines, it stops being a skill and just becomes your default way of operating. But all this scanning, this hyper-awareness, it's not random. It's your brain's defense mechanism, and it's trying to shield you from one very specific, deep-seated fear. And here it is. This is the real engine behind it all. The anxiety isn't about some big, dramatic breakup. It's much scarier than that. It's the quiet, nagging fear of being, well, quietly swapped out, just seamlessly replaced. It's the terror that one day you'll wake up and realize you've been traded for a better option, and there was no fight, no warning, nothing. So this experience basically creates two totally different ways of thinking. You've got the first choice mindset, which comes from a place of security. You just assume you're safe. You trust the connection. And then you have the second choice mindset. This one is all about constant vigilance, constantly scanning for signals, because you've learned the hard way that your place isn't guaranteed.
Now, this fear, this mindset, it doesn't just stay in your head. It forces you to act. It creates this incredibly powerful drive to do one thing: secure your position.
And we can actually give this a name, the irreplaceability drive. It's this deep, sometimes you're not even aware you're doing it, effort to make yourself so essential, so valuable to someone, that the idea of replacing you just seems impossible. It's a survival strategy, really, a way to fight back against that fear of being swapped.
You can see the whole chain reaction right here. It's pretty simple, really. First, you have the experience, your chosen second. That plants a seed of fear, this worry that you can be easily replaced. And that fear is the trigger for the strategy, the need to become completely essential. So what does this drive actually look like in the real world? Well, it can show up in a few ways. Maybe you become the most helpful person anyone knows. Or you make sure you're the only one who gets all the inside jokes and remembers all the key memories. Sometimes it even means you take on other people's problems, creating this subtle dependency on you. All of these are tactics, ways to weave yourself so deeply into a relationship that you feel you can't be removed. Okay, so after all of this whole intense psychological journey, where does that leave us in the end? Well, what's so fascinating is that it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, this experience can make you incredibly empathetic and resilient. You really learn how to fight for the people you care about. But there is a dark side. It can also trap you in this exhausting, never-ending cycle of proving your own worth. It's like you're constantly having to audition for a part you were already given. And that brings us to the final question, the one I want to leave you with. Is this drive to be irreplaceable? Is it a superpower? Does it make us stronger, more valuable friends and partners? Or is it a trap? a cage that stops us from ever feeling truly safe and loved for who we are without having to prove a thing.